Good day and welcome back to Iran Daily Newsfeed. The FATA Social Deputy, the Production and Information Exchange Unit of the Islamic Republic's police force, says the fake software of 8 Iranian banks has been removed from Google Play. As reported by state-run ISNA news agency on Monday, November 15th, Ramin Pashaei, FATA Police Social Deputy, said this was a new attempt by cybercriminals to misuse citizens' bank accounts in 8 banks, which has now had the full attention of the police force. He then added, FATA police are telling people to use similar internal services instead of secure tools like the Google Play Store so that the authorities can prevent scams. A government has to protect its people from harm, and consequently, when it comes to protection, the Islamic Republic should pursue the goal of preventing fraud. But instead, we can clearly see that in the so-called protection plan, IRGC seeks to dominate and control the country's internet. According to the news, a member of the board directors of Steel Producers Association said, Syria is reluctant to buy steel directly from Iran. The Iranian producers have been forced to sell their steel to Turkey at a high discount and a very low price, and Turkey exports Iranian steel to Syria at a significant profit margin. Until recently, Turkish traders bought Iranian steel at $580 per ton and exported it to Syria at a profit of about $170 per ton, said Reza Shahristani. According to the reports, Turkey, China, and the UAE have the largest share of the Syrian market, respectively, and Russia has made significant investment in Syrian oil and gas. Other news agencies have recently reported, citing investigations by the Tehran Chamber of Commerce, that for at least the past year and a half, the Syrian government has revoked its license to import cars from Iran and that no Iranian-made car is allowed to enter Syria. Iran has resumed producing parts for advanced centrifuges at a nuclear site allegedly once targeted by Israel, according to the news. Citing unidentified diplomats, the U.S. newspaper said that operations at the Karaj facility resumed in August and have ramped up, with one diplomat saying that enough parts for 170 centrifuges have been produced since then. The diplomat said there had been no UN monitoring on the site. The International Atomic Energy Agency's director, Rafael Grossi, said last month that one of the watchdog's cameras was destroyed and the other was heavily damaged in the June blast at Karaj, which Iran alleges it was an Israeli sabotage attack. Iran has acknowledged removing several damaged surveillance cameras installed by the IAEA at the Karaj site. It is unknown how many cameras are there. Jordan has called on the Asian Football Confederation (AFC) to launch an investigation to determine the sex of a goalkeeper on the Iranian women's soccer team, with Tehran denying foul play. Iran beat Jordan 4-2 on penalties after a goalless draw on September 25th to qualify for the 2022 Women's Asian Cup for the first time in its history. The president of the Jordan Football Association, Prince Ali bin Al Hussein, tweeted on Sunday a letter requesting a gender verification check on the Iranian player in question, suggesting that the keeper was a man posing as a woman. Hussein described it as a very serious issue if true and called on AFC to please wake up. But Iran team selector Maryam Irandoust dismissed the allegations and said the medical staff has carefully examined each player on the national team in terms of hormones to avoid any problems in this regard, and so I tell all fans not to worry, Irandoust told sport news sites on Sunday. Tehran has reported an explosion at an oil pipeline in southern Iran, Tazim news agency said on Wednesday, adding that the blast happened because the infrastructure was old. The explosion created small tremors that could be felt in the surrounding areas, Tazim said, and many people have thought it was an earthquake. This incident caused no casualties, a local official told media in the Khuzestan province, adding that the blaze had been extinguished immediately. Ebrahim Raisi declared during a session in Iran's parliament that the country now has access to its previously frozen financial assets being held abroad, according to a report from Iran's media. News of the released assets arrived as Raisi addressed Iran's legislators about his nominee for the country's education ministry. In the beginning, the government had problems with selling oil, but now the situation has improved, and I can only say that the government has access to its resources in other countries, Raisi announced on Tuesday, according to Iran's Fars news agency. On Thursday, Ali Naderi, managing director of Islamic Republic news agency IRNA, said on Twitter that more than $3.5 billion in Iran's frozen assets were released by one of the countries holding them. Naderi, who did not name the state who released the assets, said that a significant portion of these resources are entering the country's trade cycle. Sanctions imposed by the United States resulted in a freeze of Iran's assets abroad worth billions, according to the Jerusalem Post. The removal of sanctions is also a key demand from Iran in upcoming discussions with the world powers on a potential revival of the 2015 tattered nuclear deal. Since September 11, 2021, Iranian monarchists of Vienna united from all parts and regions of their homeland. Despite dialect differences, the patriotic Iranians are protesting in support of the countrymen inside Iran who risked their lives and are taking to the streets and demanding a regime change in Iran continues. Their only wish is the return of freedom and democracy to the Iranian nation. Let's watch some of the videos from the protests together.
درود به همه هم‌میهنان. امروز 25 آبان سالروز جانباختگان آبان که توسط رژیم اسلامی در خیابان کشته شدند، ما مقابل سفارت رژیم اسلامی دست به اعتراض زدیم.
آینده ایران، آینده ایران، آینده ایران، آینده ایران.
هم‌میهنانی که در خیابان به خیابان آمدند مقابل ضحاک ایستادند، مقابل رسانه‌های فاسد، مزدوران خارجی و داخلی ایستادند. پس بیایید برای هموطنانی که به خیابان آمدند، برای ایران و ایرانی همبستگی داشته باشیم تا دوباره پرچم سرنگ و شیر و خورشید را در کشورمان برافراشته کنیم.
دیپلمات تروریست، اسلامی تروریست. دیپلمات تروریست، اسلامی تروریست. دیپلمات تروریست، اسلامی تروریست.
And that was all for now. I'm Kate, and thank you for the privilege of your time.